this came up. This was not totally fresh news, but it's ongoing now.
So this is old, but it's still a topic that should probably be discussed. Rose Colored Gaming, a site that does a lot of repros, and quite frankly, they do some custom handheld systems like Wonder Swans and Neo Geo Pocket Colors that are absolutely gorgeous. They decided that they were going to put out a repro of a unreleased Super Nintendo game called Shadowhawk, based on a Image Comics character from the 90s by
Jim Valentino.
And they did this run, and they sold it, and in April, Jim Valentino wanted to sue. And he wanted to sue for quite a bit. He wanted to sue for losses, and he wanted to take all of their profits, and then he wanted $2 million on top. That's how you start in a case like this.
You're not going to get $2 million.
Because you're not going to get $2 million. You just have to aim for the top and watch it go down.
Well, not just for the game trademark, but also I think they use images from comics in the materials they put out from old comic scans or whatever.
So what it really comes down to is this very gray matter that I constantly feel very weird about when it comes to reproductions, especially reproductions that are based on creative properties that are ongoing or that people still hold their trademarks to.
Mm-hmm.
You are profiting off of someone else's work in one form or another. And in this one, it's different than a game that was abandoned by Sunsoft. This is a game that was abandoned, but it's also based on a comic book character that a guy is still trying to make some sort of livelihood off
This
of.
is a double whammy. This is both trademark and copyright infringement.
Sure.
It's both.
Right.
But all the other repros are copyright infringement. Those are copyright works they don't have the rights to reproduce and sell and make money off of.
No.
This is both. And this is a guy, we always talk about, you have to protect yourself. Say Jim Valentino doesn't protect himself here. He's thinking about, this is my property. Not saying there's going to be a Shadowhawk movie anytime soon, but there could be something that comes up, whether it's a new comic, new cartoon,
reboot or
toy
something.
line. He has to defend his creation. That's just the way it is. And is he making an example out of these guys? Probably. But maybe something happened in the negotiations, or people saying he signed off on it, other people saying, oh no, that he didn't sign off on it, but people led us to believe he did, that are involved with the project. It's a mess for everyone involved. Because it sounds like someone probably lied to the other people in the group working on this project, saying, oh yeah, Jim said this is okay, when obviously it wasn't.
Well, this is not exactly a professional operation. And I'm sorry, I like I said, I enjoy some of the stuff Rose Colored Gaming does, but this is a hobbyist thing for the retro community. I can't imagine there's a whole lot of in-depth business talks with these people to make sure everything's squeaky clean.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I don't know exactly the story behind it, but overall, I would have to say that this is not a practice that I'm particularly fond of.
Well, no, and like I said, we mentioned how it's bothersome to me that people are doing this. Like we said, there's an NES port of Leisure Suit Larry that's out there and sold, and they obviously, even if it's a homebrew, they don't have the rights to do that and sell it, but they did it, which is fine, but people might come after you, and it's their legal right to. That's always in the back of your head. Even if there's an unproduced NES game, the copyright's still held by someone. Right. Up to 70 years after the author's death, the copyright's good. So even though it hasn't happened yet, it can happen.
What bothers me even more about this, though, comes from a video game preservation standpoint, is that they chose to make money on this before releasing the ROM.
Oh, that happens all the time, though.
Yes, but I fucking hate that.
Oh, I think it's disgusting, too.
I think it's gross. And that's actually, in all honesty, that's largely my problem. We are going to hold this ROM hostage. We are going to show you a couple screenshots. We are going to sell you what is likely to be a very overpriced reproduction based on someone else's work. And, I mean, where's the ROM go? You haven't preserved anything. You have still put it on a physical cartridge that can be destroyed.
Well, it's preserved
somewhere
on their computer, but not to the public.
That's not proper preservation. That computer goes away. Those multiple computers go away. I mean, it needs to be out. It needs to be reproduced.
On the someone can always take their cartridge and dump it, but it's just they have to do that.
It needs to be replicated.
It bothers me too. It bothers me too, just because people are like, prototype it's weird because there's like a handful of people that end up buying like 90% of the NES prototypes, and then they dump them all the past few months. The price goes up, and the price comes way down when you realize that there isn't a huge amount of people interested in the prototypes. Now, when it comes to unreleased games, though, yes, they do see it as a profit-making scheme. They're like, oh, okay, we can sell a couple hundred carts of these. This is what a profit will be, blah blah blah. Then we might release it if we can get our profit back, or at least make back our investment. But you don't own the rights to that game. It's not yours.
Right.
That's the problem. So even though it's not legal to even sell reproductions no matter what, without the author's permission from the game or whoever owns the rights to that, to hold the ROM hostage is really shitty.
Yeah.
It's just shitty.
Legality or not, or legal or not, if you put the ROM out there and then offered to sell reproductions to people who wanted it on a physical medium,
fine.
That's a gray area where I'm okay with
Yeah.
it, but at least don't immediately profit off of someone else's shit. Get it out there, preserve it, let other people have it, take a crack at it, and then if someone wants to pay you for it on a cartridge, then okay, I guess.
I mean, I think they're lucky. I think it's lucky. They're lucky that Nintendo's never gotten after like Retro USB for doing, Nintendo World Championships reproductions. All it takes is one day of them turn around and say, "Oh, this is bullshit. Let's do this." But Nintendo usually is hands off when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? All it takes is one case like this for everyone else to say like, "Oh, maybe we should be more careful." But again, this is sort of an individual, one-man Jim Valentino that owns the rights to this character he created. Not saying whether or not the character is good or bad. He's like a Wolverine guy with claws, basically, in a silver suit. I hated Image Comics in the 90s.
I was just gonna say, Image Comics now, top of the line shit. I mean, amazing stuff. In the 90s, no. Just no. Bad stuff.
Yeah, obviously you had Spawn, which was popular. I think Spawn's the only ones that's still around from the 90s, I think, right?
Spawn was in it? Yeah, Spawn. Okay, Spawn was in it.
Spawn was a big one.
But you also had like Bloodshot and.
No, Bloodshot was Valiant. Bloodshot was Valiant.
Well, Exo Manowar was Valiant.
That was Valiant.
I thought a lot of Jim Layfield's.
That was all Image. All the Wildcats and shit.
Oh, I'm
like
sorry.
That.
I got Bloodshot confused then. Yes, all of Jim Layfield's
the
stuff
muscles,
was on Image.
the muscles that are on top of muscles, sort of look.
So, Comic-Con joke. He was sitting at his booth, like not doing fucking anything in Artist's Alley.
Oh, really?
And I've got a couple beers in me, and I look at my friend and I said, "Should I go ask him to draw me a foot made out of utility pouches?" Because that's like...
Oh, the Captain America?
All he knows how to do is draw utility pouches, and the one thing he can't draw is feet. All of his characters have no feet, so I wanted a foot made out of utility pouches.
You should have done it. I didn't know he was even there.
He was there. He was away from the booth most of the time, and even when he was there, honestly, there were not many people there.
There must have been sort of an Image Super Nintendo run, because remember, there was a Wildcat Super Nintendo game somehow, and there was a cartoon. A violent cartoon they somehow made into like a cartoon on Fox.
Jim Lee's Wildcats.
That's right.
But
yeah.
Jim Lee is actually a pretty decent artist. So, I mean, whatever. Fucking A.
All right, so hopefully they'll probably get passed a little bit, but there's probably, for cases like this, there's probably a maximum they can get for damages where, it's not going to be $2 million, it won't be $1 million, it won't be $500,000. They'll get pants though for probably, who knows, it could be tens of thousands on something like this. And again, Jim Valentino's trying to prove a point.